Ngozi, a respected investigative journalist, sat in her Lagos office reviewing files from at Nigerian room. Something about the writing style, the depth, the timing. It wasn't random. She whispered to herself, "This is Dike." She opened her old inbox. A year before his death, Dike had emailed her an expose idea he never followed through on. One of the leaked files was identical in format. She sent an encrypted message to the leak room. "I don't want to unmask you. I want to help." No reply. But someone was watching. At midnight, she received a message. "Meet me, Ibadan. One condition. Come alone." She packed her bag without blinking. Peter went to drop a message at a cyber cafe near Ogbomosho. On his way back, he noticed a man in a black cap following him. Quiet, measured. He didn't run. Instead, he entered a local shop and slipped out the back. By the time the man reached the corner, Peter was gone. He returned to Dike breathless. "They're watching. I saw one. NSS, maybe?" Dike nodded. "We knew this day would come." Peter clenched his jaw. "What next?" Dike looked at the wall where each leak was listed like battle scars. He pointed at the last one, the one that breaks them. In Enugu, Adeyeze was making dinner when the doorbell rang. A woman in a red headscarf stood there, holding a file. "I'm from Senator Bamidele's office," she said. Adeyeze froze. "I was told to offer you something. For peace." She opened the file. A check for N150 million, a property title, and a non-disclosure agreement. "If you sign this, your family will be protected. But if you continue, things may get complicated." Adeze didn't flinch. She picked up the file and tore it in half. "Tell your boss I married a lion, and lions don't die in silence." She slammed the door and called the number saved in her phone as "My King." Ngozi waited at Dugbe roundabout. No lights, no security, just the wind. Then a keke pulled up. The rider handed her a blindfold. She hesitated, then wore it. 20 minutes later, the blindfold came off. She stood in a quiet, unfurnished room. On the wall, printed pages from all the leaks. She turned, and there he was, Dike, gaunt, bearded, calm. "Thank you for coming," he said. Ngozi swallowed. "So it's really you?" He nodded. "You're not here for an interview. You're here to help finish what I started before they tried to bury me." She held out a flash drive. "I brought more fire." Fino sat at a roadside bar in Benin, downing his fourth bottle. Voices haunted him. "You shot a man who once trusted you." "You're just like them." A man sat beside him. "I heard Dike might be alive." Fino turned sharply. "What if he is?" The man leaned in. "Then someone will want you to silence him again." Fino clenched his fists. "I didn't do it for hate. I did it for survival." The man dropped a card. "Then survive again, or die for nothing." As the man left, Fino lit a cigarette. But this time, his hand shook. In Isayin, Peter had just returned from delivering a file to a contact in Ibadan when a knock came. 3 men, plain clothes, cold stares. "Good evening," one said. "Are you Peter?" He hesitated. "No, I dey find 'em too." They looked at each other, unconvinced. Peter excused himself, entered the house, and bolted through the back. Running barefoot, he cut through May's Farms, breath heavy. Back at the hideout, he slammed the door shut. "They found me." Dike looked at him, calm. "Then it's time we disappear again." The game had changed. Bamidele stormed into the studio of one of Nigeria's top TV stations. "I give your station N$400 million annually in adverts, and you let them leak my name?" The producer tried to respond. "Sir, it's an independent newsroom." "I will ruin you." He turned to his aide. "Begin payoffs. Media, bloggers, even TikTok people. Anyone who posts Niger Leak Room must feel pressure." By evening, several influencers started deleting posts. News sites stopped reporting the leaks. But Twitter was on fire, and Dike had just sent another file to Ngozi, a letter linking a former vice president to oil block fraud. Dike and Peter sat cross-legged, watching Ngozi's live report from a hidden YouTube stream. The video was simple, the message brutal. This document shows how N$37 billion meant for Niger Delta cleanup disappeared, with approval from the former VP's office. Within minutes, mainstream media scrambled to ignore it, but the public didn't. Peter looked at Dike. "Sir, this one will cause wahala." Dike replied, "Good. We need the wahala." Peter then hesitated. "There's something you should know. One of the accounts in the flash drive, the sender used a name, J. Peter. That's my dad." Dike turned to him. "Peter, your father may be the reason I nearly died." Peter sat outside the hideout, the wind rustling the trees. He couldn't sleep. He remembered the name in the payment file, J. Peter, his father. He confronted Pasanjo the next morning. "Baba, did my father ever work for powerful men?" Pasanjo sighed. "Your papa. He get some cane people way they visit him. He no talk much, but him get secret pass Bible." Peter clenched his fists. "He helped them. He helped them kill Dike." Pasanjo placed a hand on his shoulder. "Son, your father no be devil, but sometimes when hunger day, man go chop poison." Peter wiped his eyes. "I'll finish what he started, but I won't be him." A dusty motorcycle rode into Busuma village before dawn. It was Fino. He walked to the bush where he last saw Dike fall. He stood there, silent. Then he knelt. "If you're alive, Dike, I'm sorry." He turned back, only to see Pasanjo waiting by a tree. "Why you come back?" Pasanjo asked coldly. Fino looked down. "I want to fix what I broke." Pasanjo scoffed. "Then you better carry cement and start working." He turned to walk away, then paused. "But if you truly want redemption, protect the boy." Fino nodded. That night, he waited in the shadows, watching over Peter's path from afar. Ngozi received a sealed letter by courier. Inside, a summons from the NSS. She folded it slowly, calm but shaken. Later, in a hidden WhatsApp group, she typed, "If I don't text in 3 hours, leak the backup. All of it." She wore a simple dress, packed no documents. At the NSS office in Lagos, she was escorted into a room with tinted glass. Oba was already seated. "You're poking the lion's eye, Ngozi." She smiled faintly. "Some lions don't deserve sight." Oba slammed a file on the table. "You have 48 hours to drop that account, or you'll go missing, like Dike." She leaned forward. You're too late. Dike isn't missing." And she stood up. Back in Enugu, Adaeze opened her gate to find two of her husband's former loyal staff waiting. "Madam, the house is being watched. They plan to detain you on fraudulent estate management." She laughed bitterly. "That's the new lie?" One of them handed her keys. "There's a safe house in Nsukka. Stay low." She packed a single bag, told her children nothing, and left quietly in the night. On the road, she called a number saved as Ngozi. "It's starting, isn't it?" Ngozi replied, "Yes, and it's going to get bloody." Adaeze looked out the car window. "Then may the ghosts walk freely." Back in Iseyin, Dike stared at a hard drive marked "The Vault." Ngozi had handed it to him. It was from a whistleblower, a former accountant for the ruling party. Inside were names of slush fund recipients, account numbers, surveillance photos, even CCTV footage of a cash drop at a private estate. Peter walked in. "Is this the one?" Dike nodded. "When this drops, there will be arrests, riots, maybe even a coup attempt." Peter asked, "Will you survive it?" Dike smiled painfully. "It's not about survival anymore. It's about making them remember." That night he whispered to the wind, "Tomorrow, Nigel wakes up." At exactly 6:00 a.m., Nigel woke up to a 180-page file titled "The Vault, How They Ate Niger," released by @Niger Leak Room. The document named 43 public figures, senators, governors, ministers, even a former First Lady. Evidence included signed invoices, voice notes, surveillance videos, offshore transfers within hours. Protests erupted in Lagos, Ibadan, Port Harcourt. Banks locked their doors. Media houses scrambled to verify the stock market dipped. That evening, Dike watched the fire he started rise like smoke from a war drum. Peter said, "Now you be the ghost of Niger now." Dike replied, "No. Niger is finally seeing herself in the mirror." A blogger accidentally posted Peter's blurred photo in a tweet. Anonymous courier spotted delivering docs to journalists. It went viral. Within 3 hours, NSS picked the location: Oyo Axis. Peter had no idea until 2 men followed him at a roadside recharge shop. He returned to the safe house, breath heavy. "Sir, they're on to me, this time for real." Dike checked the news. "They've crossed the line." He handed Peter a tiny phone. "Memorize the number inside. If I get caught, call that line and leave the country." Peter's eyes widened. "What about you?" "I already died once. Not again." Fino watched the protests on TV from a bush camp outside Busuma. He had made peace with himself. But when he saw Peter's face in the news, something snapped. "They'll come for the boy," he muttered. He returned to Iseyin under cover of night. Just as Peter was exiting a compound the next day, a black jeep screeched to a halt. Masked men jumped out, guns raised. One pointed at Peter. Fino emerged from nowhere, fired twice, and tackled Peter to the ground. Bullets flew. One hit Fino in the side. Peter screamed, "Fino!" Fino grunted, "Run. I didn't save your father, but I'll save you." He collapsed. Sirens howled in the distance. News of Fino's heroism spread fast. His identity trended. The NSS picked up the trail, and Iseyin became a hotspot. Dike moved again, now to a small church-run safe house in Ilorin. From there, he typed what he called the final manifesto. A heartfelt note to the Nigerian youth. You're not lazy. You're betrayed. You're not poor. Your wealth was hijacked. Don't wait for the government to change. Be the leak. Be the witness. Be the justice. He set it to post alongside one last file. Bamidele's recorded blackmail of a Supreme Court judge. But time was running out. Bamidele watched the nation burn on the news. His allies had gone silent. Party heads denied him. The president's men refused his calls. Desperate, he called a fixer. I want him gone. Who, sir? Dike. I don't care if he's a ghost. Finish him. The fixer asked, even if it exposes you? I'm already exposed. Do it. A bounty was placed. 300 million naira. A photo of Dike, older, bearded, but recognizable, was leaked to mercenaries. Meanwhile, Adaeze, in hiding, received an encrypted message. They've put a price on your husband's head. You must act now, or bury him twice. 3 armed men arrived in Ilorin by midnight. Hired, ruthless, anonymous. One had a photo of Dike. This na our N300 million. They traced his last ping to a church compound outside the main road. Inside, Dike sensed something. He looked at Peter. They're coming. Peter replied, we can still run. Dike shook his head. No, tonight we finish this. He plugged in the hard drive, opened the manifesto, uploaded the judge's blackmail tape, one last message, pre-recorded, ready to go live. Then, silence. Outside, the killers approached. But unknown to them, Fino, wounded but alive, had arrived first. He loaded his shotgun. For Naya, he whispered. At exactly 5:58 a.m., every major social media platform lit up. At Niger Leak Room went live, not as a faceless account, but as Dike himself. You were told I died, but I lived, and I watched as this nation bled. He detailed everything, from convoy attack to betrayal to the master file. Then he paused. If this is the last time you see me, know this. They can kill a man. They cannot kill memory. Then he read the names of young Nigerians who had died from corrupt negligence. Fire victims, bad hospitals, unpaid soldiers. Across Niger, people wept. The killers breached the compound. Gunshots rang out. Fino, already hit in the leg, took out one of them before falling. Peter pulled Dike into a crawl space. Sirens came. Locals, already alert from the live broadcast, had raised alarm. The NSS arrived, too late for the attackers, but not too late for Dike. They found him, weak, bleeding, but breathing. He stood before them, raised his hands, and whispered, "I'm not running." He was cuffed. But the news already called him a hero. That day, nationwide protests demanded, "Free Dike now!" Back in Enugu, Adaeze walked into the family compound with 12 journalists and court officials. In her hand, a file Dike had sent before he was arrested. Complete land documents, signed wills, video messages confirming her ownership of all properties. Chuka, Ikana, and Sopolu tried to resist, but this time the law stood with her. She reclaimed the house. Public sympathy exploded. On Arise TV, she gave an emotional interview. "They tried to bury my husband, but they didn't know he was a seed." Across social media, women hailed her as the Lioness of Enugu. Weeks later, Dike stood before a federal panel, not in chains, but as a protected whistleblower. With public support, Ngozi's reporting, and evidence from the vault, Bamidele was arrested. Half the cabinet resigned. Peter began a podcast, Voices of the Forgotten. Ngozi won the African Journalist of the Year, and in Busuma village, roads were built, clinics opened, funded anonymously by Dike. He refused all political appointments. He returned home quietly one night, hugged his children, and kissed Adaeze's forehead. "I have no ambition left," he whispered. "Only purpose." The next morning, he disappeared again. Not to hide, but to keep watching. From the shadows, Dike, the ghost Niger, needed